Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. So if you haven't been following along with the series, there will be a link in the description below where you can clone the repo and follow along. If not, welcome back. This one's going to be slightly different. So we're going to pause and just take a moment to realize what we've accomplished so far in this series and how useful it will be to ourselves in the future. So we're just going to imagine ourselves in a time where it's been 2 years from now, we've completed this project, we've got our Kickstarter clone set up, and we've sort of moved on with life and forgotten all about it. But all of a sudden, we've got a new job. We're going to be working for Professor Oak. Now, Professor Oak has given us our first task, and our first task is to create a back-end RESTful API for a Pokédex. Now, a Pokédex, it requires different users, and it's going to keep track of Pokemon in relation to those users. And we think back and we go, okay, cool. We don't need to create this from scratch. We've already got a lot of this boilerplate code in our past projects. And because we are kind people to ourselves right now, we're going to gift wrap our future self a wonderful project that we can kickstart the next project for them. So we've forgotten quite a bit of these projects because it's been 2 years. So we go back to our repo and we go, cool, let's look at our first repo and let's look at the README file within the repo, which is the first thing you see inside of a GitHub project. So which is why we've got our nice little description page inside of this README file here. So we've got a reusable template that we can use to kickstart any future RESTful API. So we've noticed that this so far is we have a Mongo database node RESTful API. It does the following features. It's connected to a Mongo database. There are two models. We've got a user model. We've got a basic project model. And we've got projects that are linked to users. We've got user authentication authorization. We've got it with JWT. We've got it as a side note because there is different ways to do this. And we've got our custom error handler. We've got TypeScript. We've got ESLint and prettier config. We've got pre-committed hooks with Husky. We've got a starter file for Postman. And this is just a summary of our folder structure because, again, inside of our first thing that we see inside of the GitHub repo is this README file. We don't necessarily want to trawl around seeing how we've set it up. So we've got it over here. We've got it modularized into routes, controllers, services, sanitizers, types, models, schemas, middleware, database utils. And we've got our helpful commands. And our helpful commands are just the commands that we've already done inside of the package JSON. But again, we've just separated it out and told it inside this README file for our future selves because we don't have to look around everywhere to find what the commands are. And we've even given ourselves steps to create this project. So let's follow along, shall we? So step 1 will be to clone this repo. Step 2 is to create a Mongo database. So if you want to use your current Mongo database, there will be issues because, and I'll show this in the future in a couple of minutes, there will be issues because when you have created this in the Mongo database before, we've told you that we want titles related to projects. But that's okay. So step 3 is to create a env file based on our env sample file. So we have our env sample file. And it tells us everything that we need. Port, environment, JWT secret, and the Mongo URI. Step 4 is to run npm install. I've actually got that, so we'll go npm install. And it should take a couple of minutes, maybe 2 or 3 at the most. Alright, we're going to import the Postman collection and we're going to run it with npm run dev. So inside of Postman, again, this shouldn't be anything new to you guys if you followed along. You're going to import the collection. And we're just going to test it. And I've got a little helpful reminder here to either not test the create project command because we'll run into errors, or if we do, we're going to drop the database. So when we run into this, alright, first thing that you have to do is create a user because otherwise you won't be able to access most of the paths because they are protected. And we're going to paste our little token in, and now let's go users. Cool, one user that we just created. We've just created that user. And we'll get all projects. There are no projects. But we can create a project and we can create a project of book. That's cool. Alright, so now we've just done this first command, or we've deleted this. So if we right in the future, you realize why I've said this drop the database after you test it, but we'll wait till it appears as an error to come back to it. So step 6, update the project schema and the project types file. So inside of our schema, we have to say, okay, we're going to want a name instead of title because Pokemon have name. And we're going to update this. Okay, cool. So if we wanted to create more things, so we wanted to create a moves list, attack list, a type list for our Pokemon, we could do so now. But just as an example, I'm just going to have names. Alright. And we're going to update the sanitizer. So we go sanitizer, name, and we want to sanitize the name. Because the name and title are so similar, I'll take a second just to update this. This isn't strictly necessary just for demonstration purposes, but it's so similar to title that we may as well take a second to do it. Okay. So I've written that it's important to do it properly, but you can just assume the data is valid if you just scan for the future self. And after this, we're good to go. So if we go into this and we get all projects, we create a project. Name is undefined because we have said that we want name. And for my first Pokemon, I'm going to choose Charizard. Cool. And for my second project Pokemon, let's use Pikachu. Oh, object with that ID already exists. So if we go into this, from memory, inside of our error handler, it's when Mongo comes back with an object with ID exists, we're just getting a nice error code here. But if we actually want to see, we're going to console log error message for ourselves real quick. Cool. So duplicate error key, title of null. And this is why I was saying before, if you want to either use the current Mongo database or you test the Pokemon with the project command, you must drop the database because inside of the database, it is expecting there to be a title. So for the first one, it went through fine because you said, okay, cool, there's null. But we also said that the title must be unique. Therefore, there can't be two nulls. So if we come into our Mongo database over here, because we told it originally that we want a title, and we said title must be unique, now, even though there's no title over here, there is a null title, and it's sort of expecting there to be a title unique here. So to fix that, I'm just going to drop this database. And now if I come over here and create Pikachu and Charizard, and one more for good measure, let's say Bulbasaur, they all work. So that's why it's important to drop the database or create a new one. Alright. If I get rid of that. Cool. So after this, we're good to go. However, it is going to be very confusing because when we go into this, well, it's taking us all of 5 minutes and we're good to go for our Pokédex API. However, when we go into this, we're actually using the project's routes and that's going to get confusing. So we're going to take a little bit of time and just rename everything to make it nice for ourselves to work with. So that's why we've got a little step here. So we're going to rename projects to Pokemon, and we can do this across all files for in-file names with this Control-Shift-H command. Control-Shift-H, and we're going to say all of project, we're going to replace with Pokemon. Now, I'm not doing projects with an S, because stuff like the project schema and the project service have S, and it's going to get replaced because it won't differentiate between projects and project service. So I'm not taking the S in. We're going to replace it with Pokemon, and Pokemon is going to be a capital P because sometimes it will replace a file with a lowercase p to a capital P. That's okay. But if you replace a capital P to a lowercase p, that's going to get really annoying because you won't do a correct camel case, and it'll be really hard to sort of differentiate different words and files. So we're going to go ahead and replace everything. Alright, and that's going to break quite a few things because we haven't got the file names properly set up, even though we've got imports going. So for example, inside of here, we've got Pokemon Service, but these Pokemon Service doesn't exist because we've only replaced the in-file names, not that, because it still says Project Controller, so it'll still say Project Service. So we're just going to go through and rename all these files first, and we're going to call them they're the Pokemon files. Alright, and we just go through and open everything and rename everything. Okay, cool, everything's renamed. Except this is using a capital P, and we want a lowercase p for Pokemon Service. Because inside, wait, where is our services? Pokemon Service, okay, cool. So Pokemon Controller is all good. Just going through and make sure there's no weird error messages that I've missed. And looks like I am good. Cool. And let's just double check that the route works. No. We've got to update the routes. Pokemons. Cool. Inside of the route, let's get Pokemon. This isn't quite necessary if we just want to prove that it works, but it is a nice little thing for ourselves. So we're going to say we're going to go over here and update this one. Update that one. Not authorized. This is why I've got this here. So inside of is used to authorize inside of Pokemon Service. We're going to make sure that this line, so Pokemon Service is user authorized. So we've got the user ID, but not the... So, .user ID versus ._ ID. So we'll see that makes much of a difference. Cool, it did. That solved the issue. That's because the Pokemon doesn't exist anymore, so let's create a new Pokemon with this ID. And then we can update it, and we should have a name of cool. So that's everything. And just like that, we can take advantage of what we've done in the past to provide ourselves in the future such a useful platform to get going with our next services and our next job. So I hope that this episode has been short but very valuable for you guys. So if you like it, please like and leave a comment below. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to see any future updates. And or if this hasn't been helpful to you, leave a comment below and I'll know to do less episodes of this. So thank you for watching and have a good day. I'll see you next time.